How's it going, college football fans? It is your boy, the Jared Sawyer, coming to you here with Cows and Quacks Season 6, and we are in Week 0. Believe it or not, that's a real thing. Joined always is my co-host, Mr. Tim Alcorn. Tim, say hello to the folks. Give them a shout.
How you doing? Just still up here in the Rocky Mountains, just little over a week away from where we get started, me and you. I want to bring up something real quick.
Let's get into it, man.
We had the preseason All-Americans come out, and your boy Thibodeau and my running back Bijan Robinson are both on the list. I think they both have a chance to possibly win the Heisman. What's your thoughts on that?
You know, I think Robinson probably has a little bit of an edge if we're talking Heisman. And reason being is defensive ends, rarely ever get in that conversation. I mean, you have to have such an impactful year, and especially that position where you're talking about defensive end, you know, your impacts aren't necessarily always counted in sacks or tackles for losses, right? But also pressure on the quarterback, being able to disrupt plays, making teams call audibles, and there's a lot that goes into that. That shows your worth and value as being an All-American beyond whatever, you know, is going to show up in the stat line as far as sacks. Now, if Thibodeau goes off and he starts having, 3 to 4 sacks a game, he's causing fumbles, recovering the fumbles, he's just crushing people on special teams. I guess there's a realistic opportunity of him getting in the Heisman conversation. I just think it's a little far-fetched on a defensive position. Would be really,
I think that needs to be changed personally.
Well,
I think that
but you talk about Heisman moments.
Defensive players can have just as much impact as a running back or a quarterback.
You talk about Heisman moments, though, like a running back. Robinson will use as a great example. If he suddenly is this hero in the Red River Shootout, and he goes off and has 200 yards rushing and makes just a miraculous run and jukes a bunch of dudes or runs over a bunch of dudes and then ends up in the end zone. I mean, you can look at that at the end of the year with all his stats and go, yeah, that was a Heisman moment. Quarterbacks have that too, but defensive ends, I don't know, man. I don't know. It would be. It would
what's so crazy is I kept calling last year. You got to get Robinson in, and talking about him, and they don't put him in until week 4 or 5, and that cost Tom Herman his job. Had Herman used him immediately, Sark wouldn't be the coach right now. I mean, Bijan averaged 8 yards a carry while he was in. He also averaged 18 yards a carry in the Alamo Bowl. And get this, every fourth time he touched the ball at South Point Catholic in Tucson, which you're familiar with, he averaged 18 yards a carry and a touchdown every fourth time he touched the ball. The kid's special.
Think about that. Those stats are ridiculous.
He has a chance to be right there with Earl Campbell and Ricky Williams if he stays healthy.
Yeah,
he's that good.
Yeah,
and that's not a hype on my part. That's just how good this kid is.
I agree with you. I mean, our show is Cows and Quacks. After all, we're gonna show a lot of love to the Longhorns and the Ducks on here. But Tim, back to Kayvon. He was the number 1 pick in the entire country, the number 1 recruit. Chose Oregon. He's done nothing but shine since he's been there. The COVID year. They were running an I-4 with Avalos as the DC, and it didn't really work to his advantage. He's just a speed edge rusher. The kid is so fast and so dangerous off the edge. I have no doubt he'll live up to the All-American hype.
I believe he'll be the number 1 pick overall.
I can see that.
I don't think he'll be a defensive lineman. I think he'll be considered an edge rusher in the NFL.
Yeah, which he should be. He should be. So something to watch for this year. I mean, obviously, it's gonna be fun, and we're gonna see a lot of it right away. I want to talk about the AP Top 25. Did they get it wrong? Did they get it right? Oregon came in at number 11, Texas came in at number 21. Preseason's really difficult to rank, especially after a COVID year and so much weirdness in last year and teams not having the similar schedules and training regimens and what have you. So this year's, to me, going to prove a lot about where teams are really at. What stands out to you the most out of this top 25? Surprises?
You know what stands out the most to me is out of the top six, let's go the top six. Only 2 have returning quarterbacks, and that makes it kind of iffy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon, I personally, I feel like y'all should be top 10. That's just me, and I'm okay with where Texas is. I mean, 21's about right. Who knows? I mean, who really knows? And both of us, we're probably both going to have new quarterbacks. I mean, I believe that Hudson Card will win the job in Texas, at University of Texas. Who do you think is going to be the quarterback there?
That's been the hot topic amongst Duck Twitter. Really, I mean, and actually a lot of the Washington fans and Oregon State fans and just Pac-12 football fans in general have kind of chimed in on it. And it's cool to be in a position in Oregon where now we are the front runners for the conference annually. I mean, and really that's where we should be. As far as the quarterback goes, I just have this sneaking suspicion, because they haven't announced it yet. I mean, I guess they could do it today, but I have this sneaking suspicion that the freshman Ty Thompson is going to get QB1. And honestly, if you have a guy like Anthony Brown, a 6-year senior, he's a decent enough game manager. He's not going to wow you with his legs. He's not going to wow you with his arms. But he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and he understands the game really well. But if you have a talent like Ty Thompson, and you, Mario Cristobal, are looking at this kid and going, this could be the next Trevor Lawrence. Put him in there, starting off the season with Fresno State. Give him the reps, give him the chance. Because worst case, you bring in Anthony Brown if the kid gets a little too off the rails, right? Needs to calm down, needs to coach up, needs to talk to the OC a little bit. I would be a fan of that, especially at home first crowd back in Autzen. Give the kid the experience, give him that confidence, and who knows? I mean, maybe the kid goes out and just lights it up, and you have this next phenom on your hands.
Well, whether it's your guy or Thompson starting, both of them are just holding it. Both our freshmen are going to take over. Hudson Card was, I believe, the number 2 quarterback coming out of high school, and they're just. If anyone else starts besides those 2, they're just placeholders.
Yeah, I think so. Excuse me. I will say I am a little surprised at the rankings to see Notre Dame ranked as high as they are. But again, that's Notre Dame. But what really catches my attention on this more than anything else, and we talked about this last week, good old Cincy sitting in number 8. And I think these guys, like you said, they are primed to be the first non-Power 5 team to make a run for the playoffs.
Yeah, what's his name? Luke Fiskell, I believe. I like their coach a lot, and I believe 8 is a good ranking for them. And like we talked about last week, it would not surprise me to see Cincinnati in the playoffs. And one thing great about them starting so high is they don't have to climb way up to get there.
No, not at all. And I mean, they're right there. Take care of business in front of you. You know what I mean? They're immediately, again, they have games week 2 and 3 that should shape that entire season for them. So it'll be cool to see. Something that stands out to me now, especially with the news breaking yesterday about the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC having an alliance formed, and there's going to be a lot more details that come out about that, and TV deals and scheduling, and if it's affected for future games or not here really soon. Feinbach going on and calling it an embarrassment. And it cracks me up because the SEC has no problem stacking the deck for their conference. But the minute you have the 3 others pull a very similar type move, suddenly they have some sort of issue with it. It cracks me up. But I think the SEC needs to understand something. I mean, right now, okay, if we look at, let's just say those conferences were intact today, and we look at the top 25. You have, what is that? That's 13 to 7 of those teams that would be in the conversation. So you have 13 teams across those three conferences, and then the SEC would have, Oklahoma and Texas, which would make up the other two. So it's not as if that whoever comes out of that conglomerate wouldn't challenge the SEC. But man, I tell you, this whole super conference thing we talked about a couple of seasons ago, it's starting to look like a very real thing here.
Yeah, and so that was going to be what I was going to bring up is I don't find it too far-fetched that this alliance also gets with the SEC and they go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I could see them doing it sooner than later, and it's funny. Dan Patrick was talking about. I wonder if he listens to us because Shannon, my nephew, and he said, yeah, Dan Patrick they just had a whole show about it's going to be 30 or 40 teams, and that sure sounds familiar.
What's up, Dan? We love your show, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Have us on, damn it. Yeah. I just, the more we see this, Tim, that's just direction it's going. There are going to be pros and cons to every change, right? But I just see this starting to happen. It was actually interesting. The Big Ten Network, I was watching this last night. The Big Ten Network did a total breakdown on the Pac-12 teams and the ACC teams that they feel should be included if the Big Ten were to make them an offer they couldn't refuse. They talked about Oregon and USC. They talked about Clemson, Florida State. And they talked also about making Notre Dame and bullying them into having to join the Big Ten if the Big Ten were able to dissolve the Pac-12 and dissolve the ACC. And to me, I would love Notre Dame to have to be in a conference. I think that I know that they don't want that, but I think that puts them in a position where you look at the prestige of a conference that has Clemson, Florida State, Oregon, USC. We'll throw Washington in the mix. Notre Dame, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin. You look at a conference that has that right there. I don't care what any homer says in the SEC. That is right in line to being stacked with the SEC's best as well. And so, yeah, it'd be amazing to see.
So here's my question. They're going to do an alliance. Okay, now, do you think after they do the alliance, the Big Ten's going to try to make it a super conference, or do you think they're going to stay with the alliance and just do the scheduling amongst so they all play each other and they don't go outside of the alliance to have other games? Is that the way you think it's going to be set up?
I think initially, and this is just my prediction. There's no basis to this because there's really been not that many details, just a lot of speculation. I think this is what's going to happen. I think we're going to have this alliance between the three conferences. You're going to have the bottom teams play the top teams, and you're going to have one big matchup in the first 3 games of the season. Like you'll have like a Clemson versus USC, or an Oregon versus Florida State, or something like some big flagship matchup interconference to get attention on it, right? To give that parity. And I think what will start happening is you're going to see they're going to test the waters as far as TV ratings because everything comes back to money, right? And once that happens, you're going to see what's drawing the crowds, West Coast to East Coast, because now you're talking about the first real coast-to-coast conference. And, at that point, it's prime for them to go, oh, okay, we're going to take you guys on the West Coast, you guys in the Midwest, and you guys on the East Coast. The rest of you, good luck.
I think something you'll see, too, is that probably the West Coast games will start happening sooner for national TV so they can get the exposure completely. Do you think that's a possibility? Or?
Well, yeah, we're seeing that in a couple of weeks. The Ohio State game, we kick off it's 9 a.m. here local time. Which to me is, that's extremely early to be starting college football. But I get it. If you're a kid and you're in Florida, you're in Ohio, and you want to watch USC or Oregon play, you're not going to necessarily stay up till midnight to watch that game, but you would watch it at noon, You know,
and there's an East Coast bias because of that.
Right.
And do you think like they will actually maybe step out still and maybe like have a Oregon Alabama series or do you think they're going to take it all in the alliance, keep it within the alliance?
I would say they would be wise to keep it in the alliance because that strengthens the alliance, right? Like if you have these head-to-head games. I'll go back to Ohio State, Oregon. Winner of that game is going to go to the playoffs this year, hands down. There would have to be something so monumentally wrong with either one of those teams post that win to prevent that from happening. Would you agree?
You could have one loss and still get in.
Right. I mean, so like it would have to be such a, like Oregon would have to just completely shit the bed, or Ohio State would have to completely shit the bed after that win or loss for them not to get in because they're going to have that top 10 win from the season. Well, the same thing's going to apply when you do the alliances. The ACC is going to set up their best to have a landmark win. Same thing with the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. And so what that does to the SEC is they're going to either cannibalize themselves or go play Little Sisters of the Poor. You know,
the SEC is going to, if this alliance works out, especially if the TV ratings are exceptional and the money's there, there will be a four conference alignment within 10 years. I say probably 5 years that what we're talking about happens. It's just one step closer as of yesterday.
Yeah, no, I just my sneaking suspicion is at some point they'll have a coast to coast alliance conference, and you'll have your divisions, right? You'll have your West Coast, Midwest, and Atlantic division, and then you're going to have a wild card and then kind of an inter conference playoff, right? And then you're going to have a conference championship, and they go out, and whoever wins that's in the playoff. SEC champ's going to be in the playoff, and you're going to have 2, 3, 4 runners up, whatever the case might be. That's the way it's going to end up working out. Something that struck me yesterday was the Pac-12 announced they're going to be moving from 9 conference games to 8 conference games to give themselves more opportunities to pull in, the new alliance, which I think is great. I honestly, listen, I understand the need for a tune-up game, especially at the beginning of the season, but there is no reason in the world any major college program should be scheduling, week 11, playing Citadel. I mean, stuff like that is just repulsive to me. I get that it helps the little universities out money-wise, but come on, Bama. Come on, LSU. Like, what are you guys doing? There's, to start the season maybe against a community college, okay. Go beat these guys up, pay them a couple mil, get your guys tuned in and ready to go play a big game. I don't have a problem with that, but in Oregon, week 3, we play freaking Stony Brook. I'd rather there not even be a game. There's no point in playing that game. So I think that with the alliance, it'll fill in those Division II games where you're not going to see that anymore, and I don't want to see it anymore. I would rather Oregon go play Illinois week 3 than play Stony Brook. At least you get a Power 5 win.
Well, if we're going to do that, and if we're going to be scheduling really tough games every game, I think they have to go to 16 teams because there's going to be 2 and 3 lost teams that probably deserve to get a shot.
Yeah, but that's fair. The cream's going to rise to the top. You're going to have an 11-1 Ohio State, a 12-0 Alabama. It's going to still be like that. No matter what format we go to, these blue bloods will find a way to still be at the top. That's just the way it goes. You know it. I know it. I want to get into some games. Because we have a chance to pick some games.
We have some this week.
It's week 0, so it's not a lot. It's not amazing, although there is one game on here I think it's going to be a fantastic game. And we'll save that one for last here. So kick us off, Tim. Bring us up.
Let's go Uconn at Fresno State.
Oh, the Huskies.
Huskies, yeah. They're
I'm impressed they still have a football team up there at Uconn.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be pretty.
No, I think Fresno State's probably going to lay the wood down. I'm going to take Fresno State by about 30. I think it's going to be pretty brutal for those old Uconn Huskies there. How about you?
Yeah, I got a 51-14 game, so.
Yeah. Plus, I'm going to be watching this game. I want to see what Fresno State looks like. We play them next week. So yeah,
They bring some pretty good clubs sometimes, man. They've had some good teams.
Up there in Fresno, you pull in Bay Area kids and Southern California kids that don't necessarily get picked up by the major teams. They have had some really, really good teams in the past, and teams that will challenge them. I don't think that this is going to be a cakewalk for Oregon next week. I think it's going to be a really good challenge to work the kinks out, though. Next up, let's go Utep at New Mexico State. This is going to be a barn burner, Tim.
I think it's going to be pretty good. I mean, New Mexico State sucks. UTEP is UTEP, but 38-28 UTEP.
Yep, I actually think this will be a fairly competitive game. UTEP's been silently getting better over the years, I've noticed, and they're starting to creep in to get a little bit more notoriety. I could see this game actually being pretty entertaining. Bring our next game in, brother.
Let's go Southern Utah at San Jose State.
Now, San Jose State last year had an incredible season amidst COVID and everything. I honestly believe that San Jose State is a dark horse in the Mountain West this year. I think that Boise State and San Diego State and Hawaii had better be really cautious of this team. They're starting to play really good football. I'm going to take San Jose State in this big. I think they're going to absolutely blow them out. I'm putting them at 60 to maybe 17. I think it's going to be a massive.
I'm okay with that. It's going to be a slaughter for sure.
All right, Nebraska, Illinois, coming in. Illinois. I mean, what are you really going to say? I mean, these are two very bottom of the barrel Big Ten teams playing in week 0. I think that this is going to be an opportunity to see how bad it really is for Frost. He's really struggling, man. And
he's in trouble with violations. And
how long does Nebraska put up with this?
Not long. Not long. I like Scott Frost. It just hasn't translated from, maybe UCF was just that damn good.
Well, you've been able look at this. All right, I started having issues with Scott Frost way back at Oregon when he said you can't recruit kids to Eugene. And you fast forward now to what Mark Cristobal and company are doing there. We're pulling in a top 10, top 5 recruiting class annually.
You're turning people away.
It's a big time program, and it's not just about unis and flashy plays. They're playing big boy football up at Eugene. So what he said was wrong. And then he goes to out to UCF, and he killed it there. He did a great job, and he had everything you could ever ask for. Central Florida, you're recruiting a hotbed of just incredible athletes. And you leave that to go back to your alma mater with this dream, and you just eat shit. It's been bad, man. I just don't think he's a good recruiter. He can't.
Well, I give you an example. The Iowa State coach, and his name escapes me right now.
I know who you're talking about, though. Yeah.
Great coach. NFL offered him last year. He said no, and he's building something very strong at Iowa State. And he's God there. I mean, he's God at that university and that state now. Why would he ever leave? It doesn't make any sense. If you're going to make $3 million anyhow, why not make it somewhere where you can make your own powerhouse and everybody love you?
Yeah, I agree completely. So who are you taking in this game?
I don't know. You go first, man. I'm having a tough one here.
I'm taking Nebraska. I just don't think Illinois has. I mean, I could be completely missing this one, but I just don't think they have anything. I mean, really, I think Illinois would struggle against a lot of Division II teams at this point. They've had a ton of turnover on their staff there. I know there's been issues at Nebraska, but they do have mid-average athletes still at Nebraska that can play football. I'd be surprised to see them lose this game, but I will say this. If they do drop this game, the hot seat is going to come on extremely fast for Frost. And if they drop, I don't know, two more games before midway through the season, he's out. They will boot his ass out of there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Nebraska 5-3, and they'll hit a 2-run home run in the bottom of the ninth. Because I'm not sold on either of these teams.
Nor should you.
And I was so wrong because I really thought Scott Frost was going to do very, very good there.
It's disappointing, man.
I was completely wrong.
I thought he was going to come back and be the prodigal son and have his moment and take Nebraska back to, winning Big Ten championships and competing in the playoffs and, being in big bowl games. And it's not working. It could be that kids don't want to even go to Nebraska anymore. They don't care. It was something their dads thought were cool, but, look at what's happened with a lot of major programs, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle to get that notoriety back. Two teams that are very up and coming this year. Game of the week. It's not a hard pick because it's really the only game worth really talking about. Hawaii at UCLA. All right, so I want to help anyone that doesn't pay attention to these teams understand the eye.
Don't sleep on Hawaii.
No.
On Hawaii.
The eye candy offensive, just display you're going to see in this game. Okay, UCLA has Chip Kelly, who is starting to look a lot like Chip Kelly of Oregon. UCLA had Oregon on the ropes last year. They were in every single game last year. That program is starting to really believe in what Chip does. You got to remember, when Chip took over at Oregon, Oregon was already a top 5 program. So it was a natural transition. He was the OC there first. So there wasn't this breaking in period of 3 or 4 years where people had to suddenly understand what was going on. He had his athletes, the players knew him, the system was there. He just took it to the next level. And at UCLA, he's now starting to gain that momentum. We're starting to see Chip Kelly start to look like Chip Kelly of college. And that's a scary damn thing because he's still got it, man.
You saw that the last half of the year.
Oh my God.
His team started looking like Chip Kelly teams.
Yeah, and then in Hawaii has a very similar offense, but with some unique changes. It's called a go-go offense, and for any of you non-football junkies that don't know what that means, I'll just put it to you like this: you're gonna see some cool shit, and you get athletes out in space, very similar to what a spread does. And it's going to be an absolute blast to watch this game. I'm actually really excited.
Almost like a 7-on-7 thing, the way they do it. It's incredible to watch.
Exactly. So for those of you that never watch Hawaii because you're on the East Coast and Hawaii comes on at 2 o'clock in the morning for you, totally fair. For those of you who never watch UCLA because it's USC light, as I like to call them, I get it. Tune into this game. Okay? Have a few beers, enjoy some college football. This is going to be a fun game to watch. I'm going to go first and let you round it out. I think the over in this game is going to be insane. But I have UCLA winning only because of the experience Chip Kelly has in shootout games. But this game the margin for error is going to be so small. I have UCLA winning this thing 63 to maybe 55. I think it's going to be.
That's crazy. I have it 63-58. That's nuts.
Been doing this for a little bit. You taking UCLA or Hawaii?
I'm taking UCLA. You do know what UCLA stands for, right?
What's that?
Ugly Caucasians living with Asians. And if you've ever been to UCLA, you know what I'm talking about.
That's actually fairly accurate. Yeah. It's good, man. That's good. So, hey, Tim, we're back, dude. This is
we're back.
Anymore.
Next week it's on.
Oh,
next week it's on, bro.
Our regular listeners, we normally try to keep this to about 25 to 35 minutes for a show because I understand you got a lot going on in your day. You're listening in the mornings on Fridays, or you're listening in the mornings before games get going on Saturdays, and we appreciate all that. But I'm telling you, next week, we're going to probably go for an hour. We have so many games to get through next week and so much to cover. It's going to be awesome. I'm just happy college football's back, brother.
Me too. People are going to be in the stands, even if they got to show their vaccinations.
Or negative COVID test. One of the two.
Or negative. That's negative.
Hey, there you go. Well, we will be back next week with week 1 of the 2021 college football season. But until then,
adios,
amigos.